In this video, I'll discuss some of the basic aspects of lead and follow technique and some exercises that can be performed during class. When teaching dances in Ballroom Basics for Balance, the dance steps are initially taught independently so that a person can focus on their own movement without having to worry about distractions from having to lead or follow someone. Letting people take their time to move and dance independently is very important because this allows a person to really learn more about their own balance abilities and what areas they may need improvement in. Of course, one of the primary goals in Ballroom Basics for Balance is to have fun and to improve your balance. But we also want to talk about reducing the risk of falls. And in order to do this, as well as improve confidence, it's important for people to challenge themselves, and ultimately this allows them to have a better concept of what they can and cannot perform safely. Depending on the class, the instructor may choose to continue to teach people independent dance or may teach a combination of independent and paired dancing. It's always good to have options, to have a person continue dancing on their own because they may not feel comfortable dancing in a partnership.
You may have a class in which some people are very eager to partner, and this can be a lot of fun. Just continue to remind people that it is a balance class and that continuing to work on their own independent control of movement will ultimately make them a better lead or follow. Additionally, encourage people to practice both the lead and the follow role, as this gives people the opportunity to understand what the other person needs to do and is a dual task challenge.
There are a number of activities that can be performed in class that are fun, but are also a great way to work on awareness of movement and either are directly or indirectly tied into lead and follow technique. The primary skill that we're trying to develop is to teach people how to shift their center of mass over their base of support in a clear and confident manner, and then to communicate this to their partner. So one of the first things to work on is just independent weight shifts. Have people stand with their feet shoulder width apart and attend to their proprioception, their weight through their feet. Knees are bent slightly. They should have their weight even, left to right, and forward and back. Initially have them try with their hand lightly touching on a support surface if needed, and if they need a double hand support, that is appropriate as well. They shift their weight to the right and to the left, keeping shoulders over hips, over knees. If they feel comfortable, they can practice shifting their weight completely over one leg, with the opposite leg just lightly resting on the ground. This, of course, can be progressed to single leg standing, so that you're standing over one leg, shoulders over hips over knees, and the opposite leg lifts off the ground. Again, encourage that they hold on for support if needed. At this point, it can be progressed, if appropriate, to have the person practice stepping forward with the leg, back, and out to the side, or performing circles. A lot of times people like to practice spelling out their name with their free leg. This is, of course, a great way to work on the strength of the weight-bearing leg and to work on single leg balance. Then have them shift and practice on the opposite side. Practicing dynamic single leg stance is really important for functional activities, and this is a good opportunity in class to then pause and have participants do some brainstorming about functional activities where they would need to have controlled balance over a single leg. Maybe they'd come up with an idea of being able to step into the tub safely or putting on their pants. The Practicing of the single leg stance also, of course, integrates nicely into the first movement of any dance. So getting centered, shifting weight over one leg in order to have your opposite leg free to take a clear and concise step. When a person's able to confidently and independently do this, it'll be easier for them to later communicate this to a partner. A nice example of a dance that does this, if you happen to be teaching it in class, is Argentine tango. And so you can give an example of the playful movements in Argentine tango where there's perhaps a pause and a person can move their opposite foot around to make the dance look fancy as they're simply resting before they move on. As a person's balance improves, or if they're looking good when practicing this, you can certainly have them narrow their base of support. That comes back to some of the key elements. The reason why you might want to do this when translating into dance is that there are some dance movements where the initial step starts with feet together, a weight shift, and then a step. Again, they can have their hands lightly touching on a support surface. The other idea is to have a person bring their hand up into more of a traditional dance hold in order for them to practice, again with the weight shift, that they keep their shoulders over hips over knees and they keep their arm moving with their shoulder as well. This is something that has to be done when you are communicating your weight shift with your partner. It might seem like something that's natural, but when you're in a dance hold, all too often a lead will move, shift their weight, but keep their arms in their initial position. And of course, this doesn't communicate the lead to the follow. This exercise can also be practiced in sitting, weight shifting in all directions. This might be something to practice as an entire group so that you're not isolating out those who may need to perform this in sitting because they don't have the balance to practice this in standing yet. Encourage people to work on shifting their weight and not collapsing on their weight-bearing side. This practice is really good for everyone because it brings awareness to your center and how much you have to engage your abdominal muscles as you shift from side to side. And again, arms can be brought up into more of a dance hold position.
Then can practice full weight shifts onto a leg and movement of the free leg. Make sure to watch that people aren't breath holding, as they often will brace through their diaphragm. Can then work on mindful walking and attentiveness to weight shift. Have people walk around the room, paying attention to the feeling on their feet as they land on their heel, pause, weight shift, and continue. This is the perfect opportunity to bring up behavior change and environment as two components of fall prevention. When moving around others, you have to pay attention to make sure you aren't going to bump into someone, and then you have to change your behavior by pausing and waiting for someone to pass. So up until now, we've practiced attentiveness to our own weight shift and then maneuvering around others on the dance floor. Now, a mirroring practice can be a really fun way to have people work on attentiveness to their partner and matching each other's movements. Start this exercise in sitting. This is also a good practice when you are teaching a virtual class, as people have the opportunity to attend to another person's movement and practice some virtual lead and follow.
I'm going to be the lead, you'll be the follow, and I want you to match exactly what my arms are doing. So we're just going to mirror each other. So pretend that you're looking in a mirror and do exactly what I do.
This can then be progressed to a standing version. In this case, we are even in our weight between our left and right feet and moving arms only. Make sure each person gets to practice the lead and the follow role. Can add weight shifts in standing or sitting as well.
I'm kind of locking my shoulders out. So again, I'm not standing here and doing this right now. I'm just weight shifting and she's trying to do that weight shift with me. And so that's a really nice practice. And then you could add some pauses in there, like make it a little challenging, like don't just get that rhythmical rock. Have somebody hold it, and then weight shift and hold it. Weight shift and hold it. And Tracy's doing a really good job. She's not looking down at her feet, but that would be something to cue people, that they're not looking down at their feet. Here with the hands in front, they're more tempted to look at their hands. But as we start doing other things, the temptation is to start to do this. The next thing to practice is, rather than doing the hand-to-hand like this, is actually holding on to each other. And a lot of times when we're doing initial holds, we avoid doing close holds because it makes people feel a little bit like they might step on each other's feet. But in all honesty, a hold like this is harder than a hold like this, actually. If we do, so rather than a dance hold, just doing like an elbow to elbow, that's a nice happy medium, because here there's a lot of tendency to start doing this again. It certainly is good practice, but let's start with an elbow to elbow hold, and then it's the same thing. I'll have Tracy be the lead this time, and we're just going to weight shift side to side, and she's going to decide what foot I should be on. And I'm the follow, and I'm just shifting my weight and listening. How long am I staying on my left foot? How long am I staying on my right foot? And again, tell people to try to not rush it, but try to shift the tempo a little bit. Stay on one side a little longer. Maybe you go back and forth a few times, hold. But it's really a practice of concentration. And of course there's a balance component too. But the fact that people have already practiced this a little bit on their own, they have a concept of how much assistance they may need. So hopefully you've picked people so that they're safe and you don't have one person like hanging on to the other person for balance.
If there are balance concerns, this exercise can also be practiced in sitting.
Next thing that you can do is, of course, switch who the lead and follow is. But after that, another really fun thing to practice is have people have the follow close their eyes. So in this case, I'll have Tracy close her eyes, and same thing. I'm just going to shift her just side to side. I might hold for a little bit. Maybe I'll do a couple a little faster. And then that's just a nice way to practice that. You can switch to a hand-to-hand hold and try that too. And maybe people are more comfortable with that, but you may just have to watch that this isn't happening or this isn't happening. But same exact idea.
The natural progression after working on the weight shifts we did with our partners is to have the lead start to indicate a forward weight shift for themselves, taking a forward step, and the follows would respond by taking a back step. Before doing this, it is a good idea to have everyone practice back steps in class to make sure that they feel comfortable doing this. In general, follows are going to take a lot more back steps than leads. Practicing this independently is a good idea before partnering with someone. Have people hold onto the wall for support and practice taking 2 or 3 backward steps at a time.
If we want to start working on more the technique of taking backward steps, the idea would be to really attentively work on shifting your weight over to one side, reaching with a leg back, and then shifting weight over the toe and onto a flat foot, collecting your feet together, which means I'm bringing my left foot up to my right, but I'm not weight shifting on it, and then I'm reaching back, shifting my weight, collecting, reaching back, shifting my weight, collecting. One tendency to look for with practicing backward steps, or in general once a follow is connected to their lead, is making sure that they're not taking steps so far back that they lose control of their own stability and have to rely on the lead for balance. So for example, I can reach way back here with my leg, but can I actually get my weight over it and keep my balance? So watch when people are practicing doing back steps, that as pretty as that might look to extend back, make sure that they're not extending back so far that they can't actually reliably get their weight comfortably over that foot. So the last thing is actually practicing moving with it. So I would still suggest doing like an elbow to elbow hold. So if I'm here, now it's a matter of, so let's say we're going to do just practice doing like a forward step and coming back to center. So again, I will, in this case, I'll be the lead, and the assumption shouldn't be that I'm just going to step with my left and she's going to step back with her right. I need to tell her that first. And so initially we'll do a very apparent, you can even do a breath with that, a very apparent shift over. So like she absolutely knows, yes, I'm on my left foot, my right foot is free. Because all too many times people kind of get into a position and then they just go and they haven't actually told their person that. So it's a shift, and then perhaps we just practice doing like a one step back and then a step forward. So just stepping and then coming back. Practice shifting, holding perhaps, and then doing another step and back. And the other really important thing is until I shift her weight back onto that foot, just because she's done a step back and stepped forward, I technically should be able to still keep her over to her right, and she doesn't shift onto her left until I tell her. So those are all really challenging things to work on, and you could do that a little bit at the beginning of each session if you wanted to. And of course you could do side-to-side stepping. So Tracy, I'm going to have you try that. I'll be the follow, see if you can be the lead.
Okay.
This is new for Tracy and she can do it. So you're just going to practice weight shifting.
All NDT, man.
Yeah. Right? And you can get really creative with it. Exactly.
Now we can have people integrate everything they just practiced into a lead and follow walking step with pauses and changes of direction. Let the participants know that because they are taking turns with back steps and moving around the room in different directions, they may have to take turns being each other's eyes for obstacles. This can be practiced with or without music. If you're practicing it with music, encourage people, if they are able, to listen to the flow and the phrasing of the music. As a dual task challenge, people can try to time their pauses and weight shifts to the phrasing of the music. They are now doing improvisational dance. These exercises can be integrated as a warm-up at the beginning of class, or can be integrated during the class as a fun break from learning the dance step, and a way to remind people of how to focus on awareness of their movement and attentiveness to their partners. Remind people that even though these activities are good to develop lead and follow technique, they are also helpful to work on a person's independent, static, and dynamic balance. Be watchful that one partner is not over-relying on the other person for balance support, and again, continue to work on many of the independent activities as well. Now that we're working on moving around the floor, a couple comments on floor and partner etiquette. Dancers should primarily move in a counterclockwise direction around the floor. This allows for less chances of people bumping into each other. In regards to partner etiquette, remind people that partnering is a conversation between the lead and the follow. Make sure that one person is not pushing or pulling another through a dance step, as this could be painful, affect their balance, make them dizzy, and definitely does not lend itself to the goal of having fun in class. Dance holds. There are, of course, different types of dance holds. So far we've been showing the closed dance hold with elbow-to-elbow contact, but there is also hand-to-hand contact and the more traditional closed dance hold. Of course, depending on dance hold and the style of the dance, the lead and follow technique can vary somewhat, but within these walking steps in ballroom dance, try to avoid moving arms side to side to lead, tipping upper body, or leading the movement by rocking at the hips. Now we bring these concepts into the structured dance steps that are taught. Encourage people to work on the previous concepts as they are leading and following. Technically, each step of a dance should be led. But when people are working on a new sequence, let the participants know that it takes a lot of practice, and it's certainly perfectly fine for people to step through a sequence together without expecting a perfect lead or follow. Have partners focus on awareness of the initial weight shift and being able to lead and follow the first step, either at the beginning of the dance or at any point where there is a pause in the dance. If they're able to do this, they are off to a great start.